The war in Ukraine has become a numbers game, but for Russia, in 2026, the numbers are starting to look terrifying. Every week, another grim record is being broken. More casualties, more failed assaults, more territory gained at an unbelievable cost. And now, for the first time since the invasion began, Russia may be facing a problem that even Vladimir Putin can't simply throw more men at. Because the deeper you look into Russia's spring offensive, the worse it gets. What was supposed to be a decisive push in Donetsk is rapidly turning into one of the bloodiest and most expensive military campaigns of the entire war. Russian forces are still attacking, still advancing in some areas, but they're doing it while suffering casualty rates so catastrophic that even pro-Kremlin voices are beginning to admit something has gone horribly wrong. And perhaps the most shocking part, Ukraine's defenses aren't collapsing, they're evolving. Drones are everywhere. Russian logistics are being shredded. Recruitment is slowing down. Entire assaults are being erased before they even reach the front line. And now, Ukraine is openly targeting casualty numbers so high that they could eventually force Moscow into another mass mobilization. This isn't just another difficult season for Russia. This may be the moment where Putin's entire strategy begins to break apart. So today, we're going to break down why Russia's 2026 spring offensive is becoming a disaster, why casualty records are exploding to levels never seen before, and how Ukraine's drone war is completely changing the battlefield. Because right now, Putin is still winning territory, but he may be winning at a price Russia can no longer afford. The Russian military is breaking records again. Unfortunately for the Kremlin, they're exactly the kinds of records nobody in Moscow wants to see. During just the first 4 months of 2026, Russia reportedly suffered around 130,000 casualties, including soldiers killed, wounded, captured, or missing. That figure alone is staggering. But what makes it even more remarkable is that portions of these estimates are reportedly coming from Russian-linked statistics themselves. And if history has taught us anything during this war, it's that official Russian numbers are usually conservative, which raises an uncomfortable possibility for Putin. The real losses may actually be much higher. The spring months have been especially brutal. March reportedly saw more than 35,000 Russian casualties, while April followed with another 35,000 plus. Combined, those 2 months alone produced over 70,000 losses. To put that into perspective, many modern militaries would struggle to absorb those kinds of losses over multiple years of conflict. Russia is burning through those numbers in weeks. And yet, the offensive continues. That's where things start becoming deeply alarming for the Kremlin, because casualties by themselves don't always tell the full story of a war. Historically, most modern militaries tend to suffer far more wounded than killed. Advanced battlefield medicine, rapid evacuations, and better equipment usually allow injured soldiers to survive. For countries like the United States, wounded to killed ratios in war can range anywhere from 10 wounded soldiers for every one killed, all the way up to 17 to 1 in some conflicts. Russia's situation appears to be the complete opposite, according to statements from Ukrainian officials and intelligence estimates cited earlier this year. Russia's killed-to-wounded ratio may now be approaching a horrifying level, where the majority of losses are actually fatalities rather than injuries. That is almost unheard of in modern warfare. Think about what that means for a second. A wounded soldier can eventually recover. They can return to duty. They can still contribute to the military effort in some form. A dead soldier cannot. And when a military begins losing more men outright than it can recycle back into combat, manpower problems escalate very quickly. This is one of the clearest signs that Russia's assault tactics are becoming increasingly unsustainable. Wave after wave of infantry assault, poorly protected troop movements, massive drone exposure, heavy artillery zones. All of it is creating what many analysts are now openly describing as a meat grinder. And despite these losses, Russia still isn't achieving the kind of territorial breakthroughs the Kremlin desperately needs. That may actually be the most shocking part of all this. Because if Russia were capturing huge sections of Ukraine while suffering these casualties, Moscow could at least argue the offensive was strategically worthwhile. But that's not what's happening. In April, Russian forces reportedly advanced only around 53 square kilometers in Donetsk. That tiny amount of territory came at the cost of roughly 25,000 Russian casualties. Think about how insane that ratio really is. Russia is now sacrificing hundreds of soldiers for every single square kilometer gained. That's not rapid momentum, that's attritional collapse. And when you compare those numbers to previous stages of the war, things look even worse. Back in 2025, Russia reportedly captured thousands of square kilometers over the course of the year while suffering heavy losses. Even then, the casualty-to-territory ratio was considered extremely costly, but now the cost per kilometer has exploded several times higher. In simple terms, Russia is paying dramatically more blood for dramatically less progress. That's a terrible sign for any offensive campaign, especially when the objective is something as massive as fully capturing Donetsk. And here's where the math becomes truly frightening for Moscow. Large portions of Donetsk are still under Ukrainian control. If Russia continues advancing at its current pace while maintaining current casualty rates, analysts estimate the total losses required to capture the remaining territory could potentially reach into the millions. Even for a country the size of Russia, those are unsustainable numbers. And that leads directly into another major crisis that's quietly growing in the background: recruitment. For years, one thing kept Putin's war machine functioning. Russia always managed to replace its losses. No matter how brutal the fighting became, new volunteers, contract soldiers, prisoners and recruits continued flowing into the military. But 2026 may be the first year where that system is starting to crack. Russian officials themselves have acknowledged recruitment slowdowns. Monthly enlistment numbers no longer appear capable of fully replacing battlefield casualties. And the gap matters, because once losses consistently outpace recruitment, the pressure starts building everywhere at once. Units stay under strength. Exhausted troops rotate less frequently. Morale worsens. Combat effectiveness drops. The cycle becomes self-destructive. Russia has tried to solve this problem the only way it really knows how: money. Signing bonuses across parts of Russia have skyrocketed to extraordinary levels. In some regions, recruits are reportedly being offered payouts worth multiple years of average salary just for joining the military. And even that isn't solving the problem. Why? Because Russians can see what's happening on the battlefield. They see the casualty reports. They see the drone footage. They see entire assault groups disappearing in minutes. The war is no longer distant. It's personal. And one of the biggest reasons for Russia's growing crisis can be summarized in a single word: drones. Ukraine's drone warfare has evolved into something that few militaries in the world were truly prepared for. FPV drones, cheap, fast, and devastatingly effective, are now dominating huge portions of the battlefield. These drones hunt infantry. They strike vehicles. They target trenches. They destroy armored columns. And according to multiple reports, drones are now responsible for the overwhelming majority of Russian battlefield losses. That changes everything, because unlike expensive missile systems or limited artillery stockpiles, drones can be mass-produced at huge scale. Ukraine understood this early. Instead of trying to match Russia shell for shell or tank for tank, Ukraine shifted towards saturation warfare using enormous numbers of relatively inexpensive unmanned systems. The result? Entire frontline areas have become lethal kill zones. Russian troops can't move safely in daylight. Logistics routes are constantly exposed. Vehicles are tracked almost instantly. And it's not just frontline FPV drones anymore. Ukraine has also massively expanded its use of medium-range strike drones capable of attacking targets deep behind Russian lines. This may actually be one of the most important developments of the entire war. For years, Ukraine relied heavily on systems like HIMARS and Western-supplied precision weapons to hit logistical hubs and command centers behind the front. Now, drones are increasingly taking over that role. These systems can strike ammunition depots, fuel storage sites, command posts, and transportation nodes dozens, sometimes hundreds, of kilometers behind the battlefield. That means Russia's rear areas are no longer safe, and once rear logistics start collapsing, frontline offensives become exponentially harder to sustain. The math is brutally simple. A military without secure logistics eventually runs out of momentum. That appears to be exactly what's happening to Russia. Right now, Ukraine has reportedly scaled these medium-range drone strikes dramatically throughout 2026, increasing operations month after month. And every successful strike creates ripple effects across the battlefield. Less fuel, less ammunition, slower reinforcements, weaker assaults. Meanwhile, Ukraine's own defenses continue adapting. One of the most important developments this year has been Ukraine's ability to stabilize parts of the southern front, while also launching localized counterattacks. These operations have forced Russia to divert manpower and resources away from Donetsk at the exact moment Putin wanted maximum offensive pressure there. That's a nightmare scenario for Moscow, because Russia's strategy depends heavily on concentration. It needs overwhelming force in specific sectors to grind Ukrainian defenses down. But if Ukraine keeps forcing Russia to spread resources across multiple fronts, the offensive loses efficiency. And in some areas, Ukraine has even managed to regain territory. That may sound minor compared to the massive scale of the war, but symbolically it matters a lot. Why? Because it breaks the narrative of unstoppable Russian momentum. Remember, much of 2025 created the impression that Russia was slowly gaining the upper hand through attrition. Ukraine was defending, but Russia kept inching forward. Now, for the first time in a long while, Russia's momentum appears to be slowing significantly. And that creates a dangerous political problem for Putin, because authoritarian systems rely heavily on perception. As long as Russia appeared to be advancing, even slowly, the Kremlin could justify the enormous costs of the war. But what happens if the public starts seeing endless casualties without meaningful gains? That's when wars become politically dangerous, especially when the economy is under pressure, especially when recruitment starts slowing, especially when families across Russia continue receiving news of losses month after month. And yet, despite all of this, Putin still faces a major dilemma. He can't easily stop the offensive. Pausing operations risks giving Ukraine time to strengthen defenses even further. It risks weakening Russia's negotiating position, and perhaps most importantly, it risks signaling weakness after years of portraying the war as an existential struggle. So instead, Russia keeps attacking, and Ukraine keeps turning those attacks into catastrophic losses. That's why 2026 is starting to feel fundamentally different from earlier stages of the war. This is no longer just about territory. It's about sustainability. Can Russia continue absorbing these casualty rates indefinitely? Can recruitment keep up? Can the economy handle the pressure? Can the military adapt quickly enough to survive the drone revolution reshaping modern warfare in real time? Right now, the answers to those questions are becoming increasingly uncertain. And if Ukraine continues scaling its drone production and strike capabilities throughout the year, the pressure on Russia may grow even worse. Because every month that passes seems to bring another broken record for the Kremlin. Higher losses, lower recruitment, slower advances, bigger drone strikes. Putin wanted 2026 to be the year Russia finally overwhelmed Ukraine through attrition. Instead, it may become the year attrition starts overwhelming Russia itself. And that's the truly dangerous part for the Kremlin. Not just the casualties, not just the failed offensives, not just the recruitment shortages. It's the possibility that the entire foundation of Russia's war strategy is beginning to fail at the same time. The records keep falling, but they're not the records Putin hoped history would remember.